In this late and shortened edition of the Enough Already podcast, I talk about my vacation. Yeah. Also, we discuss the story of a 3-year-old murdering a gorilla in cold blood. Hillary's troubles continue against Bernie, against Donald, against technology. Will Joe Biden take over? We'll discuss that. And a lot of other stuff. Remember, you can always subscribe to the Enough Already podcast on iTunes. And while you're there, please leave us a 5-star review. You can listen on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and the TuneIn app. We have a Facebook page, facebook.com/Enough Already podcast. And the music provided for this podcast is courtesy of YoPaulyMusic.com. All right, enough already. Let's start the show. Well, I've been unplugged all week. So, before I ask you a few questions, I got to tell you what's been going on.
Okay.
Massive road trip.
Massive?
Massive. I've probably driven, I don't know, 650, 700 miles.
I've done that in a day.
Well.
Anyway, go ahead. Don't let me take anything away from you.
You just did.
No, I'll give it back.
Went to Chicago.
Uh-huh.
Wrigley Field for the first time.
Amazing.
It is amazing. It's fantastic. Although I had to ride the train to get to the stadium.
Uh-huh.
In a lot of ways, it's just like sticking your hand in a toilet.
Sure.
Just disgusting. You grab onto the pole there to you know, because you got to give your lady a seat, right? The ladies got to sit down, the guys stand up. So, ladies are sitting down, guys are standing up. You know, who knows the last time those poles have been cleaned? But I get to the stadium, and it's everything that I thought it would be. It's fantastic. I mean, I know you're not a big sports fan, but I think you could appreciate a ballpark that's 100 years old, right?
Yeah, I like baseball.
Oh, okay.
I just don't go out of my way to watch sports. I watch the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't need to watch 100 and something baseball games.
Beers, $9.50 a beer.
Is that good?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it's to be expected. And for the most part, the stadium's all cash only.
Oh, yeah, they're not skimming.
Right?
Yeah.
So, went to the game. And, you know, not to get gross or anything, but I got to tell you about the men's bathroom.
Oh, were there ladies in it?
No, there weren't any ladies in it. But they have troughs for urinals. Mm-hmm. So they're long troughs. And they have troughs attached to half walls.
Okay.
So you're standing face to face with some guy while he's peeing.
Uh-huh.
It's a very strange experience looking another man in the eye when he's peeing. You don't want to do that.
Wasn't the whole deal don't make eye contact?
Well, you look down, to make sure everything is going the way it should, and then you look up and there's some dude looking at you. So then you look like straight up in the air, look to the left, look to the right.
Well, they're pretty tall. Can't you just stare right over their head?
Well, Chicago, they come in all shapes and sizes. There were tall guys there. I did everything I could. I went to the first urinal, and I had to use the half wall. And at that point, it was like, okay, if I have to go in here again, I have to do everything I can to make sure I'm not going anywhere near that half wall, because it's just weird. I mean, can you imagine you're sitting in a stall and a woman is sitting right across from you?
No.
Uncomfortable.
Yeah, I would imagine.
But, that place was great. And then after the game, went wandering through Wrigleyville, hopping in and out of bars. And then I had Tracy, we had the Philly cheesesteak. in Philly. What was the name of that place?
Jim's.
Wandered into Al's Beef in Chicago.
Okay.
The home of the Italian beef sandwich. They claim.
Is that what they call cheesesteaks?
Well, this is what they do. It's very similar to a cheesesteak. They put, the shaved beef on a roll. Put some provolone on it, I think it was. Mm-hmm. They have this spicy garnish, and I can't remember the name of it, but it's like celery and peppers, and they throw that on top of the sandwich. And then you can put sweet peppers on it, too. And then they dunk it in au jus.
Uh-huh.
And then they wrap it up. So you pull it out, and the bread's all, just soaked in au jus. And, it was fantastic.
I hate soggy bread sandwiches.
Yeah, you wouldn't be a fan of it. Because I know that one of the reasons why we went to
I'm not a fan of the au jus.
Yeah, that we went to that the place in Philly was because they have the hard crusty bread, right?
Yes. Well, no, my favorite crusty hard bread place is in Ocean City, New Jersey. That's the kind of bread that makes the roof of your mouth bleed.
Yes.
But that's necessary because otherwise it gets soggy, and that's just gross. I mean, some people put that on the equivalent of a hot dog bun.
Yeah.
And that's unacceptable.
And I did have a hot dog at Wrigley, plain.
Uh-huh.
Nothing on it. It was fantastic.
How much was that?
I think it was $7.
Good Lord.
$7 for a hot dog. You could get Bud Light for $8.50, and then it was $9.50 for a Goose Island.
Okay.
So anyway, ball game, great experience. The Cubs won 2-0, and then the next day, I went on a boat tour through on the Chicago River and into Lake Michigan, looking at the architecture of Chicago.
Did you learn a lot?
Well, I learned that there's a huge Trump building right by the river. And you know it because it says Trump.
Sure.
It probably takes up about 6 stories just with the name Trump on it.
It's good branding.
Yeah. Other than that, no, I didn't learn a whole hell of a lot on the tour. It was a great tour. I enjoyed myself, but I don't retain that information very well. Apparently they built an opera house in Chicago, and it was built because some rich guy, his wife wanted to be an opera singer, and she sucked. So New York said, we don't want you singing the opera in New York. So he built this opera house just so his wife could sing in the opera house in Chicago. So I did pick something. Also, I picked up that the Kennedys owned a huge building right on the river there in Chicago. Joseph P. Kennedy bought it in the 20s or whatever, 30s. And they sold it in 1999 for, I believe, $550 million.
Damn.
You're like, freaking trust fund babies, those goddamn Kennedys.
It's a nice return on your money.
Yeah.
I assume that was a bootlegging hub then.
Probably. Oh, the other story that was interesting, they had a small airstrip in Chicago that private planes would land and, go in and out. And Mayor Daley, I believe it was the old man Daley.
Okay.
But I'm not positive on that. He wanted to use that land for different purposes other than the airstrip. So he just closed it down in the middle of the night, declared an emergency, went around city government, just did it, put X's on the runways. They had to take apart the planes that were on this airstrip and take them out by trucks because they wouldn't let them take off.
Damn.
Like freaking Chicago.
Of course.
Run by crooks. So I was there for a couple days, then headed up to the UP in Michigan here. I'm in St. Ignace right now.
Is that America?
Yes, it's America. It's just north of the Lower Peninsula, right by the Mackinac Bridge that will take you from the Lower Peninsula to the Upper Peninsula. But before I got here, I stopped in Munising, Michigan, and went on a shipwreck glass bottom boat tour.
Wow. You're doing all these like culturally enhancing things, Fingers. Like you should be learning a lot.
Yeah, I'm growing as a person. No, we took this glass bottom boat out into Lake Superior and looked at 2 shipwrecks.
Sweet.
One from the 1800s and one from the early 1900s. And then I finished it off with when we were just getting into just leaving town. I had my first pasty. Have you ever had a pasty?
Never heard of such a thing.
Oh, think of it as a meat pocket.
Oh,
it's like kind of like a calzone in a way, without the cheese. Which
is the best part of a calzone.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, it's just a breaded, kind of pocket pie or whatever that doesn't have the tin. And then
so it's like a classier Hot Pocket?
Yeah, kind of. And then they stuff it, depending on what the classic recipe up here in the UP, it's a beef stuffed pasty with potatoes and carrots and I don't know, scallions. I think there were scallions in there. I don't know. I'm just throwing things out there. But vegetables and meat, and it's in a pocket of meat, and then or a pocket of breading, and then you pour gravy all over it. $6.
So it's basically like a chicken pot pie.
Yeah, it's in a lot of ways it's like a chicken pot pie, but there's not the gravy on the inside of the pie. It's very unusual, but it's very good. You have to. I know you're marking this on your bucket list right now to come up to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
Yeah, I don't go on food tours when I travel. I know you may find that shocking.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. But here's what I don't understand. So I've been unplugged really since Saturday.
Uh-huh.
Now, if I understand this correctly, a 5-year-old kid got into the gorilla pool or whatever, the gorilla cage in a zoo, and it murdered the gorilla, shot it dead. 5 years old.
That's about what happened.
That's
3-year-old.
That's
a
not
3-year-old.
Oh,
3-year-old. 3.
3.
I believe he was 3.
Shot the gorilla dead.
Yes. He had one of those AR-15s.
These are dangerous
He
times.
went to a gun show and bought it. No one checked his ID. They just, he passed for a midget.
Right.
No questions asked. And he purchased an AR-15 and climbed over the barriers around the gorilla habitat.
Yeah.
And he took out Harambe.
Who?
Harambe, I believe, is the name of this gorilla. A 17-year-old silverback.
Well, I don't know the details of the story other than apparently in the last week, this is the only thing that's happened in the world.
Yes. It's honestly the most important.
I can see that.
So I'm not surprised that you've heard about it, even though you're unplugged.
Every time I am passing by a hotel bar and the TV is on there, it's got CNN showing footage of this gorilla dragging this kid through a puddle, this pool of water, before the kid pulls out a gun and shoots the gorilla dead.
Well, we've always said that everybody should be carrying, right?
That's true.
It just proves that.
So I've missed a lot of the madness, but apparently people want the parents in jail, from what I understand. And the kids should be ripped away from them and put in Child Protective Services, because, as we all know, Child Protective Services is a wonderful job of keeping children. It would have been better off leaving the kid with the gorilla.
Yeah, pretty much.
But help me out here. I've never understood the appeal of zoos to begin with, and I'm not one of these people that says, "Oh, they should all be shut down. Isn't it horrible that they have a gorilla in a cage or in a whatever the hell they call that? What is it? The gorilla pit? I mean, what is
habitat?
Oh, I never knew that the gorilla's natural habitat was a cement pond.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's because you don't travel outside of the United States.
That's true, I guess.
I've been to the rainforest, not that there are gorillas in South America, but, I mean, there's some monkeys around, and there was definitely concrete pools.
Oh, see, I thought the name of the movie was Gorillas in the Mist, not Gorillas in the Pool.
No, you're wrong.
Oh. What do I know? But I never understood the appeal. Like, one time, I was with some friends in Indianapolis, and they said, let's go to the zoo, and I think, oh, okay. I guess it's a nice day. So walking around the zoo, I'm thinking, man, I feel like a jerk off. What am I walking around looking at just animals that are behind a fence? What the hell is this? I don't understand the appeal. I mean, I get it for kids, but when I was doing prep to go to, you know me, I like to overplan a trip.
Uh-huh.
So I'm watching a bunch of YouTube videos on Chicago, and there were this Canadian couple put together a video about the 35 things you need to see in Chicago. One of the things they recommended was, go to Chicago to go to the zoo. And I thought, okay. What the hell are you doing? What is wrong with you? You're an adult, right?
Yeah, some people like that stuff.
Flying across the country to go to a freaking zoo?
Yeah. I don't know. I've been to the zoo as an adult without any children around.
You enjoy this?
It's okay. I mean, the Philadelphia Zoo is pretty cool.
Okay. So you just look at... Oh, there's a monkey. You just
look at the animals, yeah.
Just walking through, eating overpriced popcorn.
Oh, no, I don't... Why would I... Ew. This is your vacations always have to involve eating gross things. You don't eat at the zoo. It's like a gigantic litter box. But there's like cool interactive things at the zoo. There's like a giant, you can climb in this like giant beehive type deal.
Apparently a little too interactive.
Well, you're not supposed to get in the cages. But I mean, every once in a while there's some idiot that falls in with the polar bears. And I don't know if given the choice, would I rather be in with the gorillas or the polar bears?
Yeah,
I think you probably have a better chance with the gorillas.
I would think.
But so I've heard, and I stopped paying attention to this story when it happened almost immediately. Mm-hmm. Because it's just so ridiculous, and there are going to be people that are mad at everybody when it's just an accident. It's a little kid. It's nobody's really at fault. I don't care. It's sad that the gorilla had to die, but that's the only choice. If you trank it, it doesn't immediately knock it out like it does on television. And
wait, I've seen cartoons where you tranquilize a gorilla and it drops within a second and a half. You're telling me that's not what happens in real life?
It's not what happens.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think it was a 400-pound gorilla. And they're a hell of a lot stronger than a 400-pound person would be.
Yes.
And they have no concept that, this is a human being, and it's more fragile than would be a baby gorilla. So you can't trank it. You have to shoot it. Whatever. Now I don't remember where I was going with any of this.
You said you stopped watching the story because...
Yeah, I stopped watching, but I caught snippets of it. And apparently the mom, who can be heard on the video of this, because of course there's a video, called 911. And I'm thinking, Jesus Christ, lady, really? You called 911. Nobody around you was like, hey, let's just go find a zoo employee. I'll go do that. That'll be more efficient. So they called 911, and then I think 911 turned around and had to call the zoo. So it's just amazing that people can't problem solve even in a situation like that. I mean, I guess you're petrified and you have no idea what to do. So they've just beaten into our heads, call 911.
Call the government.
Right.
They'll
call the
save
government.
You. They'll
it
save
took
you
something like 10 minutes to get there to kill the thing.
Wow. They don't have some sort of zoo SWAT team?
This doesn't happen that often.
Yeah.
And you can't fault the zoo for being like, you guys have done enough barricades. This is the first time that this has happened. So clearly everybody else was able to respect whatever wall they had around this until then.
I'm just seeing a lot of parental experts out there.
Sure.
And many of them don't have kids.
Of course.
A 3-year-old can get away from you fairly quickly. You could look down to tie your shoe and then look up and the kid's gone.
Oh, yeah. I babysat when I was younger for 3 little boys, and the youngest was 2 or 3 at the time. So I was with the 5 and 6-year-old, or the 4 and 5-year-old, whatever, doing something, and I looked away from him, turned back, gone. Just gone. And I'm like, where the hell did he go? I found him outside trying to open the gate. He's just wearing a diaper. He just took off, and I said, hey, where do you think you're going? He's like, I wanted to go for a walk. I was like, oh, you could ask somebody.
Now think if he were near a gorilla pit at the time.
Right. Oh, I would have had no idea. Stealthy as hell. Just gone. Thank God he wasn't tall enough to open the gate latch.
Yeah.
He was trying. He was about to climb the fence. So, yes, I don't fault the parents. You know, who knows how many other kids they had, what else was going on. Maybe the popcorn guy came by.
Right? Did they have a candle light vigil for him?
The gorilla?
Yeah. Are there
I've seen footage of animal rights activists, and one of them looks strikingly similar to the actual gorilla. I'm serious. This guy had to weigh 450 pounds. Like, it was frightening. I don't know why they make clothes with waists that large. But, well, we could discourage obesity, right? If you get so fat that you can't fit in clothes, you think you take a hint. But they were protesting at the zoo. I don't know what they expect to happen, if they're going to resuscitate the gorilla or what. They're very angry.
Yeah, they should have had a veterinarian on hand there. Once the gorilla was shot, they could have taken the gorilla into surgery and hoped to save it.
Right. Well, you got to go for a headshot. I mean, it's the same thing with the trank. You can't shoot it in the arm. You know, you can't. You have to shoot to kill with that.
They don't even understand that you have to shoot to kill when it comes to an unarmed gorilla.
Right. Well, you missed that because when this first happened, there were Black Lives Matter idiots on Twitter talking about how this was white privilege and likening the gorilla to slaves that were brought over here. And then a couple hours later, we find out that the little boy is black, and then that all stops. But these vultures are just waiting for any incident to put their politics into, which I don't know if you heard, but there was a shooting at UCLA yesterday.
I did hear that there was a shooting, but I don't know the details.
Well,
it's really nice to unplug.
Right. They're still kind of sketchy. But our friends on the left in our favorite little Facebook group, which we will not name, immediately posted, look, because an early description was a white guy wearing all black. They're like, go figure, it's a white guy wearing all black. Yeah, guess what? It turned out to be, I think, an Indian guy. And he had a kill list, just like our president does. And his murder spree started in Minnesota, where he killed a woman, and then he drove to UCLA to kill, I guess, his ex-professor, who he says stole a computer code that he had written. So he killed the professor and then killed himself. So I don't know if you count like 2 names as a list, or if there were other names that he just didn't get around to.
So he just killed 2 people?
And himself, yes.
Okay.
As far as we know, they just discovered that he killed this woman today, and then they're referencing a kill list in the news reports.
Why is this news? I mean, I don't mean to sound
It
callous,
was an active shooter kind of deal yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But it wasn't, obviously, an active shooter. But when these happen on universities, everybody just goes into high alert.
Sure.
And so there were reports of eyewitnesses being like, there's a guy running around, and like he's got a long gun, and then we find out it's handguns, and it's just he killed himself and then killed the professor. So you imagine that probably happens in quick succession, right? It's just one after the other.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like he's running around terrorizing people. And then the university's out like telling people to lock themselves in their rooms. I'm like, that seems like really dumb advice to me.
Yeah.
When you're watching a horror movie, which I know you don't watch movies about things and stuff.
No, not usually.
But when there's a killer in the house, they routinely run upstairs and like lock themselves in rooms. You're just like, why aren't you just running out one of the other doors?
Right.
Like, we've established that there are multiple ways in and out of this house. So the best chance you've got is getting out of there. You're not no killer's gonna be fooled that you're hiding under the bed. Like, I heard you go up there somewhere, so all I have to do is routinely go through each one of these rooms, top to bottom, flush you out, and you're dead. So I don't think it's wise to tell students, like, just go back to your rooms and lock yourselves in. And they were saying, like, students were using their belts, which I don't understand how that works at all, to secure yourself in your dorm room.
Didn't work for David Carradine. No.
Not at all.
Okay, that makes more sense because, I mean, I don't mean to sound callous, but, one guy kills 2 people, and that doesn't usually make national news.
No.
But if it were, an active shooting situation on a college campus, then I guess I can understand that it's still all over Drudge Report, and but that this is the first I've heard. I just assumed, I heard mass shooting. I thought, oh my gosh, 8 or 9 people got killed on UCLA's campus, and
nope. This one disgruntled East Asian, I think, is how they're describing him. But I mean, it's buried, and they're calling him Minnesota Man in the headlines, and to reference a book that I've read that I don't know that you have or not. Adios America, Ann Coulter's book.
No, I have not.
She talked about the prevalence. This guy was an immigrant. Like, he came here to get an education. He's from New Delhi or something like this. Mm-hmm. But she said you can start, once you start looking for these things, then you start noticing the pattern that when an immigrant or an illegal or whatever commits a crime, the headline is always man. And like if it were you, it would be like Indianapolis man does XYZ. So the news reports are Minnesotan man.
Huh.
So yeah, he was an engineering analyst.
So on our favorite Facebook message group,
yes,
did talk of race immediately cease once we found out that it wasn't a white male going and shooting up a college campus?
No, the last I saw of it, because that got posted last night, and we didn't find out his race until today. Nobody has mentioned. Somebody put a picture of him, so it's clear that he's not a white male. Nobody commented on it. So he went to undergrad at the Indian Institute of Technology in India, I believe. I can't tell because it looks like someone's already changing his profiles online. So I'm seeing 2 different copies of it. It's Bengali.
There's other big news today.
Oh, yeah?
The Prince autopsy was released.
Oh, I heard this.
Died of an overdose of fentanyl.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently you don't want to take a lot of fentanyl.
Okay, good to know.
So it's going to be interesting to see how he was getting his hands on these drugs. If he was doctor shopping.
Oh, sure.
Which is probably what happened. There was an article, a piece right after he died from one of the British tabloids. They interviewed a guy who claimed to be Prince's drug dealer and had been for a long time. And he was hooking him up with prescription drugs. So maybe he got him through a dealer, but I gotta believe they already named in one piece here on Minnesota CBS Local. They've got 2 doctors' names in this piece that they're looking at regarding the treatment of Prince. Apparently they were going to have an intervention with him, or they did have an intervention the day before he died. I'm not sure. I just skimmed it because who cares? A gorilla is dead. That's what we need to focus on.
Sure. It's the most important issue of our time.
Murdered in cold blood.
Yes, to save a human child.
By a 3-year-old. Did anyone destroy a CVS pharmacy over this?
Not yet. If it had been a white kid, though, CVS was getting the side eye from some folks. I mean, that's so disgusting. Like, I'm so sick of this stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like, God,
it's only going to get worse.
Why do you have to project all your garbage? Oh, yeah. And I can't wait to I'm going to be in Los Angeles next Tuesday for the California primary.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. old Burning Man is catching up with her crotchetiness.
I have not seen a poll recently. Last I saw, he was down 12 points. Is the race tightening?
Well, they're saying that he's gaining on her. He's gaining on her big time. There's
I thought he
articles
was broke.
I know. Well, he's just doing these events. Just going everywhere, running around with a Golden State Warriors jersey on.
He's a huge Golden State Warriors fan, as we all know.
Of course he is. Yeah, let's see. Real Clear Politics has the average right now. Clinton is at 49.3 and Sanders is at 43.3. And you got to remember, too, I don't know if the Republicans had enough time to change parties because it became irrelevant for them.
I think it was, but didn't they say back, you had to do it back in December?
It might be. It might have been.
I thought that some Bernie Sanders supporters were suing
Yes.
in California over this because I think it was back in December or January you had to switch.
I want to say it's January because I was reading about how many new people they'd gotten registered and how many party changes there were, and they're just thinking that's all going to Bernie. But maybe you still have Republicans, like I have friends that switched in '08 to Democrats just to vote and participate in Operation Chaos.
Well, you read off the Real Clear Politics average. Mm-hmm. She had been up big for a long time. Like there was a KABC Survey USA poll conducted May 19th to May 22nd.
Yeah.
803 likely voters. It was Clinton 57, Sanders 39. Now, you've got an NBC News Wall Street Journal poll that was conducted 529 to 531, and it's Clinton 49, Sanders 47. Yeah, there's another, I don't know, how trustworthy these polls are, obviously, by firms I've never heard of. I've never heard of Field. But Field,
yeah, I don't know what that means. Is that just a field poll that people ran around asking? Or
the Field poll, Field Research Corporation. If you're ever looking to do a poll in California, apparently you go to the fine folks at Field. They did a poll. They conducted a poll, let's see, 526 through 531, 571 likely voters. Clinton 45, Sanders 43.
yeah, it's going to be close. I mean, it would be great if he beat her. And since you've been unplugged, you haven't seen that there's rumblings that maybe Hillary isn't going to be the candidate.
They're getting the hook ready?
Yeah, Doug Schoen, who's a big suck-up to them, and I think he's working on the campaign, and had a piece in Wall Street Journal just yesterday or the day before, like, why Hillary might not be the nominee.
Oh.
So that IG report was a mess for them because it just blows up all their lying talking points.
Mm-hmm.
And the FBI is closing in. There was an article that went up on Huffington Post that was subsequently yanked by Huffington Post. It was in their contributor section where anybody can post, I guess. Mm-hmm. And it was about the FBI is going to indict Hillary under RICO statute for money laundering, bribery, and something else, I think. And then that article just got memory hold, but not before a couple other sites picked it up and excerpted it and said, we don't know. This is somebody speculating, but this is interesting.
This doesn't happen. The Clintons finally held to the same
I don't know.
standards as anyone else.
I still have faith that could happen. And Obama has now tried to step into this race. And I don't know if you saw, he had a mini meltdown.
Oh, no, I missed that.
Oh, it was at the top of Drudge. He did his stuttering routine.
Yeah.
Where he just has a brain malfunction, and it really does sound like an AI that's stuck. It does. Like, we cannot let Donald Trump undo all the progress that we've made. We can't have him causing divisions and if. And I think I did less ifs than he did. And he's like, if he wants to talk about, and the if was stuttered about 17 times, some kind of okey doke stuff. Just like, what?
So did somebody poke him with a stick to get him started again, or what happened?
Yeah. No, they did a hard reboot. But it was pretty embarrassing. But it's funny because the word Trump never comes out of his mouth. And I have to wonder if he's trying to tread lightly just a little bit so Trump doesn't turn around and just smack him. Because his approval rating right now is above 50%, which it has been.
How did that happen?
Because nobody's paying attention to him. It's like when Hillary goes away and her numbers go up.
That's true.
The less you see of him, the more you're like, oh, he's great. And then he pops back up and saying, yeah. You really have to see the video.
Hamina, 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 hamina.
Right. But he's so smart.
Well, he's going to go down in history as one of our best presidents, Tracy. You just got to get used to it.
Yeah, sure.
Got to come to grips with the fact that, between the wonderful work he did with our health care system, his brilliant foreign policy,
yep,
his masterful handling of the economy after the crash in 2008.
Oh, he was out yesterday saying that it's great, and anybody that says it's not is lying.
No, that will fly for about 35% of the population.
Sure. Well, it'll fly for a lot of people. As long as people aren't experiencing it firsthand, then it'll fly.
Right. But if you look at, we'll go back to our fine friends over at Real Clear Politics, and I'm pulling up the poll right now. Let's see. Where is it? They usually have right direction, wrong direction. The last time I saw a poll say it said something like 68% of Americans felt like the country was going in the wrong direction.
Sounds about right.
Why isn't this more handy?
I don't know. We'll just say 68%. You did a field poll.
Can you hear snoring in the background?
Yes.
Hold on a second.
No, it's fine.
You think? Just leave the snoring in the background?
Yeah, that's fine.
Fine, that's fine.
Yeah. Maybe people listen to this while they're falling asleep. We don't know.
Yeah, that could be.
It'll be comforting.
Okay, I'll leave the snoring in.
Yeah.
I just don't understand it. This is usually right up on the front of the list here, the right direction, wrong direction.
Well, you're the only one that's interested in seeing it, I guess.
Real Clear Politics never usually lets me down.
Sorry. Wow. Breitbart's got a headline that Hillary just scheduled 30 events in the next 5 days in California.
That's not good.
No.
Okay. Thursday.
Yes.
Reuters. Right direction, wrong direction. Right direction, 26%. Wrong direction, 60%.
Okay. So what are the rest of the people? Just don't care?
They just don't care.
I don't know.
They're in the field.
Oh. Okay.
Well, if she's doing all these events in California...
Yeah, that means she's not in Jersey. So she either thinks she's got that locked up, or she's way more concerned. I guess California is a much bigger deal, just even symbolically, because it's so huge.
It would be embarrassing for her to lose.
Yeah,
California.
well, she's on a streak.
New Jersey. Quinnipiac. Is that how you pronounce it? Quinnipiac?
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 Yes.
Quinnipiac. I don't have my spectacles on.
Hmm.
They did a poll 3 weeks ago and Clinton was up 14.
Okay. And that's the most recent one they have listed?
Right. The Real Clear Politics electoral map has Clinton at 194 electoral votes, Trump at 164. Toss-ups are 180. The toss-up states include Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan,
Yep.
and Florida.
Yep.
Oh, this is going to be fun to watch.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun. And I guess you missed the Libertarian convention over the weekend.
You know what? I did see, for some reason, every once in a while you think, okay, the Libertarians are going to try to be adults.
Yep.
And then on my television at the hotel bar, I'm seeing a guy stripping on stage at the Libertarian convention.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, there they are.
Yeah, that's why you can't have nice things. I mean, everybody expects libertarians to be kind of out there.
Right.
But that dude, apparently that went on for a couple minutes. And some of the libertarian hosts that I respect and have their own shows that I listen to are just like, yo, it's not a violation of the non-aggression principle to go forcibly remove that guy from the stage and throw him out of the conference.
Right.
Get on it, kids. Like, this is nuts. And it didn't help, too. It was down in Orlando, and in the same convention complex, there was something going on called MegaCon. So you've got a whole bunch of adults dressed up in any manner of characters, from, comic books to Game of Thrones, running around. So the press, apparently there were over 250 press attendees at this thing. Yeah, I listened to the Fifth Column podcast, which is great, with Matt Welsh from Reason, Camille Foster, and Michael Moynihan. Mm-hmm. And Welsh was recapping because he went, and he said the last convention, he thinks his estimate was that there were 10 journalists there. And this year he said there were 250. So everybody, the spotlight was on. And I don't know if there's a combination of people like protesting because Gary Johnson is not a libertarian as far as most people that are purists are concerned, like not even approaching libertarian.
Yeah.
So I figured that we'd be in for some serious stuff. So I think the guy that stripped is part of what is called the Radical Caucus. Shocking as that may be. But Gary Johnson survived. He won on the second ballot, and then his wonderful running mate, Bill Weld, won on the second ballot as well. So that's our team. Two former Republican governors that are kind of squishy about a lot of things. And so, it's just frustrating. Like, Gary Johnson is obviously a better choice than either Trump or Hillary.
Right.
But going up against Trump in a debate, Gary Johnson does not have the stones for that. Like, that's just not in him. He's not an aggressive guy.
He seems just kind of like a, hey, dude.
Yeah.
Kind of guy, hey, let's go hiking.
Yeah, he's climbed all the tallest peaks in the world.
Can't we just chill?
Yeah. And I mean, he was an effective governor. He's a self-made, I don't know if he's a millionaire, multimillionaire. So you can respect all those things, but as far as just a personality, he's not the personality to go up against Trump, and he's definitely not as unapologetic and principled as somebody like even kooky old Ron Paul, who I wish they would have forced him to take the nomination. Because that would be somebody I would love to see on stage with Trump and Hillary. Yeah. Getting to 15% and just being like, just turning around and laying out Hillary Clinton over her foreign policy blunders that seemingly nobody wants to bring up. Occasionally, they keep talking Benghazi.
Why do you keep saying Hillary Clinton? Don't you mean Don't you mean Joe Biden?
We can dream. I mean, this FBI stuff it could be very serious. I always read or listen to Judge Napolitano and his take on all this stuff. And I told you I had read the IG report, and he picked up something that I didn't, that he said proves intent, that they were intentionally hiding this information. And that's been a debate about whether or not intent has to be involved for violations of the Espionage Act. And people on the left contend that it does, when the standard doesn't actually say that. It's negligence or willful negligence. I can't remember where the bar is set on that. But the judges maintain throughout that, no, it's secondary to this. But they keep bringing that up. So he's like, well, there's a piece in this here where her personal BlackBerry that she insisted on using was malfunctioning. And now she is technologically retarded.
Right.
And I'll explain that to you because I read Cheryl Mills's deposition too, and there's more about her being technically retarded in there, technologically retarded. And so in the IG report, they said her BlackBerry was malfunctioning. And so I think they had, via HUMA, reached out to the tech department or the tech experts over at the State Department to see about if they could fix it or not. You know, like this is like the Geek Squad or something. This is not a state-issued device. And yet she's like, oh, can you guys just like fix my thing that I wanted to use instead of taking what you would give me? So
some hot sauce spilled on it in my purse.
Right. But they said that they thought it was the reason that it was not working was because her personal server was down. So it wasn't that the tech was wrong, that was bad in the phone or that the phone was malfunctioning. It was that her personal server was having a glitch. So they came up with two options, and I only remember one of the two, and it's the important one, and that option was giving her a state-issued BlackBerry that would come with a .gov account attached to it, which would be subject to FOIA. Which right. This is like this sentence is in there, not verbatim, but the words FOIA and state government email are in there. And their response was, yeah, we would rather avoid that, or something to that effect. So there goes intent, at least according to Judge Napolitano. That shows intent right there to skirt all FOIA requests and hide information. So the Cheryl Mills, you know, Judicial Watch is suing the State Department to get to the bottom of this because they had all these FOIA requests during Hillary's tenure that went unanswered. And now they're dragging in members of her staff to testify. And they got permission to release the transcripts of these depositions. So last week they interviewed a guy named Lukens, who was in the executive secretary's office. So they run the minutia of the State Department. Interviewed him. It's kind of boring. Nothing really revelatory, but they had Cheryl Mills in on Friday, and her deposition transcript came out yesterday or the day before. What a bitch. And everything is, I don't recall. So it turns out, this was new information to me, and I followed this pretty well to figure out, you know, we know that there's a bunch of emails missing in the beginning of her term. It's something, she comes into office in January, and there's nothing on that Clinton email until about March, I believe. So Cheryl Mills explains that Hillary wanted to use her personal BlackBerry that had an at AT&T email attached to it, because that's what she used when she was a senator. So I guess what I surmise out of all of this is that's the email address that she was using for those first couple of months.
Wow.
And then they said, okay, at what point did she get this Clinton email? I don't remember. I don't know. And I've subsequently learned this. But everything that she's learned subsequently, she learned acting as Hillary's attorney. So the minute that they left the State Department, all of a sudden Cheryl Mills is Hillary's attorney. So anything that they discussed is then privileged.
Right.
And she's the one that helped go through all the emails to figure out which ones needed to be turned over. So then Judicial Watch pulls out, well, okay, so you're saying that she got the Clinton email sometime in March or April. And then so she stopped using this other BlackBerry AT&T address? Yes, she did at that point in time. Then everything happened. Well, here's an email that we have from, I believe it was August of that year. And it's from the clintonemail.com address. But she also carbon copied an address that has the nickname H2. And when you click on that, you find out that's the AT&T address. So she's copying that address on these things. What the hell is going on? Well, I don't know. And legitimately, like, she could have no idea.
Right.
But this is just so bizarre. And they tried to get out of her, like, how did everybody come to find out what Hillary's email address was? And nobody's been able to answer that question, because they asked this Lukens guy, too. Like, how were you all made aware? Like, oh, by the way, it's not hclinton@state.gov or Clinton H. It's actually HDR, which is bizarre, right? It's not even her married name.
Right.
HDR22 at clintonemail.com. How does the word get out about this? Nobody's been able to answer that question. But so here's the reveal, too, about her being technologically retarded. So the initial conversations about getting her office set up involved a discussion about whether or not she could check her email from her BlackBerry inside her office. The answer is no. Her office is what's called a SCIF, and that's an acronym for something. It's like Secure Communications, something. I'll look it up. So her office is inside of one of these.
Okay.
It's Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. That's what it means. It's a governmental acronym. So inside of a SCIF, you're not allowed to have a cellular device. So she wants to check her email in her office. This cannot be done on the BlackBerry. She can check it in an office across the hall, which they have to then set up. It was supposed to be somebody's actual office, but no, this turns into like where Hillary can check her emails via the BlackBerry. But they said, okay, we do have one option to work around this. We can give her a desktop in there. No, she doesn't know how to check email on a desktop.
Oh my God.
I kid you not. And they said, well, we could train her. It wouldn't take very long. No. It's too involved because you have to put in a series of passwords, and I guess these passwords change every week because you have to go. She would have had to go through the governmental system.
And at this point, it's too. It would be too much a blow to the ego of Hillary Clinton to have to learn something from someone.
But she's the smartest woman in the world, the most qualified person, and she can't figure out how to check an email from a desktop. So this is just, it's stunning.
How can you be our champion if you don't know how to use a desktop computer?
She's going to take us into the future.
Simply amazing.
But I mean, this was all discussed in emails, so you can see it back and forth. Like, no, can't have a desktop because she doesn't know how to check email on a desktop. There are 4-year-olds that know how to do that. Maybe even 3-year-olds. It's stunning. And then there was an excuse offered too, that the reason that she didn't turn over any of her documents when she left, any of these things that she should have, is because they were still kind of in a daze because of the Benghazi attacks.
Oh, come on now.
I'm not kidding you. They were still dealing with the aftermath of, and she specifically only cited the ambassador's death and Sean Smith, because those were state workers, but they couldn't even say, oh yeah, and the two soldiers that died later on in the same attack. No, they were still in kind of a fog. And she also mentioned something about Hillary being in poor health at that time, which I don't think that coincides with her hitting her head, but maybe it does. So they just, slipped my mind, and then we have to wait a whole year before you start processing these emails.
Speaking of Hillary Clinton's health, has the Clinton campaign released her medical records yet?
I think that they might have a while ago, because I remember reading a piece, I think it was on Breitbart, that they had Dr. Drew on their radio show to go over it with him, and he was saying that she's on blood thinners and has been on them for a really long time, and they're like old. He was like, her personal doctor should be fired because these drugs, like, she shouldn't be on these things for an extended period of time. Like, there's newer, better drugs for this. And because you remember, I think that there was a worry that she had a blood clot, or it had clotting, and all that flying, will do that to you if you don't wear your compression socks.
That's right.
So there was some concern about that. So I think what happened was her personal doctor came out and was just like, she's great. Here's the list of medications that she's on.
50 medications.
Right, that might have been the extent of it. But I distinctly remember Dr. Drew just being like, wow, no, nobody should be on these drugs for this amount of time. Like, this is terrifying. Whoever's giving her this advice should be fired.
Are they bleeding her with leeches?
It's possible. Oh, man.
My God.
Yep.
This is so great.
Oh, it's hilarious. And they're going to, Judicial Watch coming up on the docket. They've said they were supposed to depose Pagliano, who's the one that set up this whole server deal. And now he said he's not going to participate in the deposition. He's taking the fifth. But they still have Huma coming up, which will be interesting because Huma was referenced a lot in the Cheryl Mills deposition.
Is she divorced yet?
Nope.
They're sticking it out.
Yeah, apparently.
If you do a search for Cheryl Mills on Google, the second thing that pops up is Crooks and Liars. Judicial Watch goes fishing with Cheryl Mills' deposition, proves it's all a witch hunt.
Of course. I bet you they read just excerpts of this transcript.
I don't have the energy.
No, it's worthless. And you honestly, like, if you have the time, it's best to go through those things yourself so that when you see media reports, you can tell who's lying and, who's withholding pieces of information. They're kind of crucial. It got really, really testy. And the lawyers that were defending her, that were there with her, I mean, this is just a deposition. You're not on trial. They were really combative, and they're the same attorneys that are representing everybody on Team Hillary.
If they end up, using the hook and, taking her off stage left and Joe Biden runs for president, he wins, doesn't he? Don't you think?
I don't know about that at this point, because you have to imagine if they do that and they take away Bernie.
That it would have to be after the convention. They could never do it at the convention.
Right, but even if it's after the convention.
Yeah.
To just bypass him completely unless they get him in line. But even if they got him in line, his supporters are so
But if he picked Elizabeth Warren.
But still, that's no good. And Trump has destroyed her pretty well over the last week and a half, 2 weeks. I don't know if you saw any of that, or if that happened. When you were unplugged, calling her Pocahontas at a press conference. Did you see that?
I did see that.
Yeah, and then that lady was like, "That's really rude. Like, you can't call her that." He's like, "Everybody calls her that." I'll call her that. She lied about being an Indian. Get over it. No, it's pretty outstanding. And then he did a press conference yesterday or the day before to take on these rumors that he didn't pay out all the money to the vets groups.
Yeah.
And did you see any of that where he called the reporter a sleaze?
I did see some of it. It was at Trump Tower, wasn't it?
Of course. He makes them come to his house and then he yells at them. Yeah. So, but I don't know why they decided to go after him on charitable stuff. And nobody, I've yet to hear anybody point out the fact that the Celebrity Apprentice was 100% for charity.
Yeah.
They raised millions and millions of dollars for charities through that show. And I don't even know if the regular Apprentice wasn't for charity as well. I don't remember. But to make it seem like he's not philanthropic is a joke. And he said at one point, like, why don't you guys go find out how much money Hillary's given to the vets? I can tell you right now, it's zero. But start looking into this stuff with the foundation, because that's where the FBI's real case is, I think. And I've thought that the whole time.
But they redefined what an ex-president, his or her role is in society. And it's making themselves filthy rich.
Sure, but I'll have people fighting with me about this and saying, oh, there was a headline the other day, like Ashley Banfield blew up our buddy Gina Loudon, I guess, was on with her or on another show, saying that 80% of the money that comes into the foundation, the Clinton Foundation, doesn't get spent on actual charitable pursuits or something like this. So some charity watchdog came in and apparently disagrees. But you can go look up the Clinton Foundation financials. They're all right there on their website. So I went in there and I started looking at them, and I had looked at them before. And I have a really difficult time figuring out how this charity watchdog decided that something like, they said 88%, I believe, of the money that comes in is spent on direct programs. But if you look at the breakdown, it's pretty simple. Salaries and benefits, $95.8 million.
Okay.
Who knew that charity could pay so well?
So, does it have a breakdown of who gets paid what?
No, this is what they turn over to the IRS. And you can go through more detailed ones, but this is just like a nice little spreadsheet summation. So direct program expenditures, $33.6 million. So right there, that's what I look at. And then people are like, wow, the salaries and benefits, like those people are actually like working for charity. Oh, really? Telling me one of Chelsea's buddies was the CEO for a couple of months, I think, and he got a housing allowance. And I want to say he took home 350 grand, something like this. Yeah,
Nice
he
work
was
if
out
you can get it.
sweating. Yeah, he was out digging, irrigation ditches for poor people. No, it's BS. They spent, ready for their travel bill? $20.7 million.
Unbelievable.
Conferences, 14 million. Consulting, which has zero to do, right? So they're paying consultants. That's not helping poor people. 17.2 million. Office expenses, 7.7 million. Telecommunications, which as best as I can figure means cell phone bills,
Yeah.
2.7 million. And their total spending in that year, this is from 2014, $248 million.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. But they're doing great work. Like, it's totally legit to spend $20 million on travel to help poor people. Seems legit. I'm sure they're sitting in coach. I'm sure they're flying like JetBlue.
Their catered lunches, I'm sure, are Chick-fil-A, right?
Yeah. You're getting dollar menu. I mean, it's obscene, but it's either people that think like the Clintons are good people that have just been skewered by the right that hates them, and there's nothing untoward to see here. Obviously, of course, you should get paid six figures to help poor people, and you should travel first class to help poor people.
I would be interested to know what the salaries are at somewhere like the Red Cross, which is much bigger, obviously, than the Clinton Foundation.
You think the Red Cross brings in $250 million a year?
I bet it's a lot more than that.
You're probably right. Yeah.
But I'd love to know what they spend on salaries and compare the two.
It's probably up there. I mean, it's hard to figure out the salary over at the Clinton Foundation, and I'm sure Chelsea's getting a salary.
Well, no, didn't you see the interview? Money doesn't mean much to her.
Oh, no.
Oh, good God.
No, it's just a disaster. They're just gold-plated grifters. And people cannot accept that. And it doesn't matter what you point to. You can say, look at Haiti. They've been protested by Haitians. And like, this is coverage in the New York Times. It never makes it over into mainstream news coverage that I've seen. They're like, guess who came out of that with a gold mine? Tony Rodham. Weird. Like, what are the odds?
It's like they're trying the Democratic Party and the American left are trying to make them the new Kennedys.
Yes. And the Kennedys were pretty despicable.
Yes.
I do think the Clintons have surpassed them, though.
Well, that's a toughie. I mean, because there's...
Yeah, I don't know. There's something so revolting about taking advantage of poor people in third world countries to enrich yourself.
Yeah.
Like, that's unconscionable.
He left her in a car.
I know.
Underwater.
I know.
Teddy. And was worried about his political career before a woman's life.
Sure.
That's what he was worried about. Boy, that's a toss-up.
I don't know. Enriching yourself when half of Haiti or however... I mean, what percentage of that population was left homeless after that earthquake? And their bill is he's the one that gets to dole out the contracts for who's going to build housing for these people, and none of that ever gets done. People are still homeless. The economy still hasn't recovered. Then they propped up some guy to be the next president who turned out to be a creep, as shocking as that might be. They're sitting pretty. They spent $250 million on charitable expenses in 2014 alone. I mean, that you could rebuild the entire country of Haiti for $250 million. I'm serious.
Yeah.
You know, it's just gross. But everybody says, "Oh, they do good work."
Yeah, their intentions
really,
are
what?
Good.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I wonder how long it's going to be before her staff starts leaking about how awful it is. It's got to be unbearable to be working at Clinton campaign headquarters these days.
You could have stopped at Clinton headquarters.
Yeah. But I mean, she's got fire coming from the left and the right.
Oh, you know she has to be seething.
I think that's her natural disposition.
But these people should love me.
Absolutely.
How dare they turn to a 74-year-old socialist? I'm Hillary Clinton.
Don't they know I want to be their champion?
They're completely oblivious as far as how they project themselves to the public. I can't imagine. Can you imagine saying I want to be your champion to anyone?
No, unless I was a boxer. I mean, really, or I guess any kind of athlete, right? If you win, you get to be a champion.
Yeah.
But it seems like a boxing term to me. No, it's absurd. And she hasn't been able to get anything that sticks. She's just, oh, God.
The polling, it looks like the free fall has stopped a little bit in the Clinton versus Trump numbers for Hillary. In the latest Rasmussen poll, 1,000 likely voters, Clinton 39, Trump 38.
Yeah.
I mean, you had polls released a week and a half ago. Trump was up 5.
Well, we'll see. What's the most recent dates of those? Because I wonder if they're before or after the IG report.
531 to 6-1 is the
So
Rasmussen.
that was over the weekend. And I did get to go to a Memorial Day barbecue.
Oh.
Where everybody was Trump. And, I mean, it's not that shocking. Most of my friends are conservatives or Republicans, whatever. But it was at one of my friend's houses, and his neighbors were over. And he had told me about these neighbors of his, and I've never met them before, that they're Chinese immigrants. And they've been here for, I don't know, 20 years, whatever. So they're American citizens now. But still, real thick accents. So it was hilarious to hear him be like, oh, yeah, I'm voting for Trump. You kidding? And every single one of them was just like, I don't particularly care for the way he talks, and like I don't really like his policies, but screw everybody. And they were like, oh my God, it's so funny to see him do XYZ, and it's all about stopping Hillary for every single person there. And I was telling them, you know, I was late because I was watching the libertarian debate. It was at the point where they were choosing the vice president. So they were giving speeches and all this stuff. And I was like, you know, I was late because I was watching that coverage on C-SPAN. And I said, you know, I'm thinking I'm probably going to vote for Gary Johnson. And they all went ballistic. And I said, there are like 25 of you here that are going to be voting for Trump. I think it's not going to throw the whole state if I vote for Gary Johnson. So, yeah. I'm not going to make the difference. Well, you could. Yeah, right. Mathematically, pretty much impossible. But all right, keep shaming me.
The hatred for Hillary is strong.
It is. Oh, my God. Everybody. And I'm talking about, like, this ran the gamut. The youngest person there was probably in their 20s, and the oldest there was 75, maybe. So just all over the place. And just firmly in the Trump camp.
Well, we have anything else? Or you want to call it a day?
I'm trying to think if there was anything big that went down or that's coming up. Aside from the California primary, which is exciting. And I can't wait to be at Ground Zero. All right.
I know you gotta go.
Yeah.
Well, this is a little different show this week. We aren't going to have Ash on, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm on vacation, and it was tough to come up with a recording schedule. So, no Ash this week and no guest. Next week, I don't know what we're going to do next week because you're in California, but we'll figure something
figure it
out.
Yep.
So, until next week, that's Tracy. I'm Fingers. Thanks for listening. Have a great week.